Hello, I'm pleased to be here with a professional local recruiter, Joe from WorkSource Rogue Valley. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Thank you, Andrew.
First,
Yourself?
yeah, I'm doing well. As we discussed, it's a Friday, so that's a game changer compared to a Monday, or even a Sunday evening anticipating the Monday.
Yes, indeed.
Well, my first question for you today is what exactly is WorkSource Rogue Valley? A lot of people have heard of this organization in passing, but maybe aren't 100% aware of the services that you can provide. And what is your role specifically within WorkSource Rogue Valley?
WorkSource Rogue Valley is the best kept secret in the state. Um, it's actually a collaborative effort of Oregon Employment Department, the local Workforce Investment Board, which is Rogue Workforce Partnerships, and a multiple of partner agencies. We have a collective experience training job seekers for career paths and is successfully referring them to businesses for more than 40 years. Our collective focus is on building innovative solutions to address the workforce priorities and the needs of employers, especially those in traded sector industries that drive our region's economic growth. My role, I'm on the regional business team focusing on the construction sector. I work with employers to build job listings, identify, vet, and place job seekers to those jobs. I look for the right fit for the right job. I also provide industry-specific labor market information such as wages and projections. My main objective is to build relationships with my employers and be able to identify their needs and able to connect them with resources to fulfill those needs. I work with registered apprenticeship programs to support the recruitment efforts and also with pre-apprenticeship trades programs in both the school systems and in-house to prepare those job seekers for a career path in construction. I use knowledge and information gained by working with the business community to help guide continuous improvement efforts and workforce development activities. Our Workforce Investment Board, RWP, Workforce Partnership, has identified specific targeted industries that our business team works on: construction, healthcare, advanced manufacturing, transportation, and upcoming IT and firefighting.
All of which are extremely crucial industries and sectors here in Southern Oregon, not to mention
Absolutely.
anywhere. And by the way, if I'm mistaken, I think it's is October like construction month?
It is actually, it's called
Oh,
Careers in Construction Month, or we call it SICM.
Sikkim.
And we're trying to get more people to kind of top of funnel right now to get them educated that these career paths are available and that they should pursue them.
So while you collaborate heavily with construction and timber and the business, I assume that there's a variety of different other industries and sectors that WorkSource Rogue Valley serves. So could you tell me about some basically just what industries are within your purview?
So, as I said, my main focus is the construction industry. That being said, I also work with all non-specific industries on a needed basis. As an Oregon Employment Department employee, any registered employer in the Rogue Valley can come to us for services. So we do not discriminate on that basis. As long as they're a legal, valid employer in the Valley, we work with them. Our team shares responsibility to cover our target sectors. Like I said, there's individual people that work those sectors, but we also work with all the other sectors, and it's kind of a catch as catch can basis. So if somebody contacts me because I have say a relationship through greeters at Chamber, I'm more than happy to work with them. So whatever industry that needs our help, we're there for them.
I think that's good to point out because some people may have preconceived notions that employment and recruiting agencies only want to work with certain industries or sectors. But as you said, if they're valid and legitimate, and especially if they want to serve the Rogue Valley in a productive way, then it seems like WorkSource is willing to work with them as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in doing so, the mutual goal is to find credible, qualified candidates, many of whom are students, to fill these vacancies so that they could start not only gaining their own experience but being trained to serve the community at large. And my question for you is, how, as a professional recruiter, do you find students to hire? Specifically, do you use any kind of social media? What does that look like for you?
So I'm going to answer this two parts. I use a variety of sources internally. Um, The state labor market exchange is called iMatch Skills. That is where job seekers put their profile in, say what parameters that they're looking for, wages, hours, occupations. The other side is employers put in their profiles, and that's where we put the job listings. So we build job listings. We search to a matching process within the system, which is really important for a job seeker to have a quality profile in iMatch Skills. If you have a partial one, and if you don't support, say that you've got training or experience in something and I'm recruiting for it and I don't see that in your profile, I skip right over you. So it's real important that they have a quality profile to be found. You know, one of that, like they say with computers, garbage in, garbage out. Same thing here. If you don't have a quality, you don't get a quality referral. The other source I use is job listings. When I do a recruitment for an employer, I can send out job notifications to qualified applicants and conduct follow-up and vetting for the referral to that employer. So I may send out a job notification, and if you're on my A list, I may follow that up in a couple of days with a phone call saying, did you get my email and are you interested? Okay, let's talk about it. Resumes, of course. You know, it's important to have a quality application or a quality profile for my sake, but overall you need a quality resume. People drop them off at the WorkSource office for the staff. They forward them to me. I can refer them to an existing job, or I can actually do job development. If I have a really great candidate that has some good qualifications and I don't have a job listing, but I know an employer that may need that person, I can reach out to that employer and say, hey, I've got this person. Do you have a need? How about, let's talk about this. I also look to our in-house cohorts. We have construction, healthcare, we've had in the past, clerical, our veterans program, and other supported programs and talent pools such as Easter Seals. Easter Seals has homeless veterans reintegration program and an over 55 program. So all of those internally I use. You asked about social media, so externally, I'll come to that in a second. I work with partner agencies to help identify and place job seekers. DHS, Department of Human Services, I work with vocational rehab, Easter Seals. Those people, they're kind of external, so we work with their people. I look to the school systems, secondary and post-secondary. I've recruited through the high schools. I've recruited through RCC. Your predecessor, I used to call him, say, I need a welder. Do you have anybody? And he would go to the welding instructor and say, who do you have that's a quality, welder? And they would refer them over to me. You asked specifically about social media. We do a little bit about Facebook. Facebook seems to really work more for the entry-level kind of jobs, production, things like that. We are taking a very aggressive approach to LinkedIn. OED now has a recruiter license, and I have one of those licenses to post jobs and recruit on LinkedIn. Again, having a quality LinkedIn profile helps me identify quality candidates. I don't like to just do a shotgun approach to where anybody that says that they're qualified, whether it's in iMatch Skills or LinkedIn, if they say they're qualified, I need to see it. And if I don't see it, I don't recruit them. And of course, employers on recruiting on their own are free to use whatever means available to them, including their website, newspaper ads, social media, Indeed, Craigslist works big in this valley, other job boards, signs in their window or out on the street, whatever. However you can attract eyeballs, I encourage employers to do it. Of course, I want them to use our services. They're a prepaid service through their business tax dollar. There's no cost inherent to that. So we are just another resource. And I work in construction trade, so I'll say it this way. We're another tool in the toolbox. A carpenter does not go on the job site with just a hammer. Job seekers should not use just one tool. Neither should an employer.
That's an excellent metaphor. And when you were talking about you don't like just the mass wide net approach of people who claim to be qualified, you need to see some kind of tangible proof.
Yes,
My English
absolutely.
teacher in high school would tell us when we were writing, show, don't tell.
Yes.
Don't just tell me that you have excellent teamwork skills. Show it to me. So whenever you're looking at a candidate's resume or LinkedIn profile, like how specifically should they be showing you their skills?
That's a good question. What I would avoid is the buzzwords. If someone says, I have attention to detail in their qualifications, that just makes me sharpen my red pencil and go looking for errors. The way to show that you have attention for details is to have all of your grammar, your punctuation, all your English components of your resume done. I had an accountant said attention to detail. And I said, you're an accountant. You darn well better have. It's part of the job description. And she goes, well, how do I show that? And I say the same thing, Andrew. I say, demonstrate, don't say it. And she goes, well, how do I demonstrate it? I said, you've ever caught an error in the bookkeeping that saved your company money? She says, oh, yeah. I say, I caught an error. It was only for like $3,000. I said, put it in your resume. Quantifiable. That is something that really works well. So rather than if you say that you have, you're proficient in Excel, well, show me somewhere in either your training, your education, or in your experience, one of your job duties, that you have that skill and you developed it there. Does that answer your question?
It does. And
Okay.
I agree that offering quantifiable details help. And feel free to agree or disagree with this. I always say, number one, just from a physical standpoint, like when you're reading the resume with your eyes, it's chock full of words and text. So when you have some really meaningful numbers, it just sort of grabs my attention at least.
Yes.
And when it comes to quantifying things, a lot of people limit themselves to like money or percentages or figures, but you can quantify just about anything. Like regarding the Excel example, if you have 10 years of experience with being proficient in Excel, you're quantifying time, but that's probably meaningful, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and to your point with the numbers, businesses are predicated on numbers. That's the language that they speak. So when you build your resume, you want to speak their language. To a recruiter, don't make the recruiter assume or guess. It's not a treasure hunt. Make it crystal clear the skills that you and abilities that you have. If I have to read between the lines, I won't. And I will add this to it. Back in my day, there was 3 minutes to read a resume. Prior to 2008, it was 30 seconds to read a resume. Today, 7 seconds. It's bullet points and quantifiable. And if you don't have that, frink into the round file it goes. You could be the best candidate in the world. You never even get looked at.
I deliver that unfortunate message all of the time, and students are like, what? But think about it. So I've been on a hiring committee before, I'm sure you have. And, if you get a stack of, 23 applications, including the resumes, cover letters on Monday, and your supervisor or whomever says, okay, let me know by the end of this Thursday which 4 candidates we're bringing in. You have to do that in addition to all of your other job duties. So you simply just don't have time to spend minutes upon minutes on one single resume or one single cover letter.
Yep, absolutely.
And you're sort of alluding to what I call targeting. And a lot of people are learning about these things called applicant tracking systems, ATS. Could you briefly let us know what ATSs are?
Yes, applicant tracking software, as you said, is software that they use to filter through resumes and cover letters. A little background, if I may. Prior to 2008, ATSs were there. They were slow, they were clunky, they were hard to use, they were expensive. 2008, 2009 hit, and recruiters went from getting 20 applications to getting 300. And they looked for something to help them. Applicant tracking software came of age. It evolved very quickly. The price came down. Of course, all the big players jumped on it initially. People like in the Rogue Valley, smaller employers could not afford it or have the technological ability to use it. But what they did is they adopted the methodology. And what I mean by that is they look for keywords. They don't want long drawn out sentences. I was taught when I was young to use action verbs and use these big long paragraphs to tell what I did. We want bullet points. We want it to be succinct and exact, quantifiable, and with keywords. So we do that methodology has been accepted, and that's now the paradigm for everybody. We don't sit there and read through all of it. We don't care that you blah, 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 blah. We want to see, do you do the job that we are asking you to do? So applicant tracking software is a great tool. It can be very, I will say this, when you're dealing with an application or a job description from an employer and you're building your resume, you want to target it. And applicant tracking software is in particular, if they say that we want someone that can manage a crew. Well, if you say you did management or you managed with a D, applicant tracking software does not pick that up. That is not one of the keywords. So you have to be specific. Use the language, the exact language that they use in the job description. So there's, tailoring your resume. People say, what keywords do I use? Use the exact keywords that the job description uses.
Your job description is essentially your cheat sheet.
It is.
A lot
Absolutely.
of candidates, I find, they see the job description and they glance over it and get perhaps really excited and said, yes, I'm going to start immediately, but they don't, pay careful attention. And it goes back to what you said earlier, is you could be the most qualified individual to perform this role on planet Earth, but if you can't indicate that on your resume, if the wording does not potentially satisfy applicant tracking software, or if you said you have to go on a treasure hunt, then you're not going to make it to the interview. That's a harsh reality.
Yeah.
Is it a similar situation on LinkedIn? Because statistics show that about 95% of recruiters use LinkedIn to pursue candidates in some way, shape, or form. So would you say it's similar when you're looking at a candidate's LinkedIn profile?
Yes and no. Let me preface by saying that I am new to LinkedIn, so I'm kind of still learning the ins and outs. But there's a couple of tools in LinkedIn that allow me to go beyond that. I do look for that. I'll use an example. I was recruiting for a water treatment plant person, and I had a gentleman that applied that had quality assurance manager. So what I did is I went into the LinkedIn tools, and it allowed me to see the skill sets that are associated with quality assurance. So when I sent this person over to the employer, I said, he doesn't have any experience doing utilities and water treatment. However, he has experience doing these skills, which are transferable to your job. So LinkedIn gives me a few more tools than you normally do. It is more of an investment on my time, which is not always available to a general recruiter, but that's something that I am able to do. So LinkedIn, I would still say make it easy for the recruiter. Make sure that they can see it. But if you're applying for something that you think you could do that it doesn't completely match, we always encourage people to apply. But try to tailor your resume and your application to those skills that are pertinent to the employer. And I will say this, if I may, 11 years ago, I had a master resume built. It was 8 pages long and it had my whole life history on it. That is not what we're looking for anymore. 10 to 12 years, and we want those bullet points, we want the quantifiable, and we want it tailored. So you don't have one resume for all jobs. Every job you apply to should have a specifically tailored resume for that job.
I always tell students that one advantage of making a LinkedIn profile is there is no length limit. So that could be your entire inventory of all of your experiences, and you just train yourself. As soon as you complete a new course, as soon as you get a new certification or fulfill a volunteer commitment, put those things on there. So what you have is pretty much what you described with the 8-page master resume, but it's conveniently on your LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
And then when you're getting ready to apply for a position and you have the job descriptions, you have a ready, very visual inventory of everything you've done, and you could say, okay, here's everything that I've done. What directly relates to this opportunity that I'm applying for? I need to make sure that I'm including it.
Right.
So a perfect segue is you mentioned transferable skills earlier. So in your experience, what are hiring managers looking for in candidates? And this could be a very general or detailed answer, but what do they want?
The most specific question is, right now, what we hear from employers are looking for is a cultural fit within their organization. Soft skills. They're looking for soft skills more than hard skills. Many employers are willing to train the right candidate, providing they have the emotional intelligence, conflict resolution skills, communication skills, which means written, spoken, nonverbal. Are they teachable? Are they adaptable to an ever-changing workplace? I had somebody tell me I'm a people person one time on their resume, and I said, what does that mean? And they said, I get along with people. No, it means you have emotional intelligence. It means you have conflict resolution. The things that I just listed off, those tell me you're a people person, not that you say you're a people person because you can BS with somebody or you're a good networker. That's part of it, but that's not the entirety of it. Another thing that we look for in candidates these days, what they call situational behavioral questions. Tell me about a time that you being able to answer with the STAR response is huge. STAR is situation, task, action, and result. So saying, I do this all the time when I'm interviewing people. Tell me about a time you had to provide good customer service. And the person looks at me and goes, I always provide good customer service. Next
Again,
question, please. You
show,
know what? You
tell.
just lost that question. That is not what I asked you. So when we tell us about a time, give us a specific instance. And really the best answer is the STAR answer, but the best answer is, can you relate it to the job that they're asking you about? So yes, I have a great example of that, but when you wrap it up and you talk about your result, tie it into what the job that you're applying is.
I've also seen an alternative STAR acronym that captures that. So it's STARR, and the other R is relatability, which is again
I
tailoring.
like that.
So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that whenever a candidate is trying to convey their experience and skills, whether it's their resume or an interview, there's a lot of behavioral psychology involved because you probably don't know a lot of these candidates. You probably never met them. So you have to take them at their word. So, you want to feel comfortable with them. You want them to put you at ease because there's a lot of mystery. They are the experts of their experience, they are the experts of their knowledge. So it is their job to tell that story, to give the
That's it.
specific context. So if you can have like that context to relate it. So instead of just saying, as you said, I always provide excellent customer service skills. Well, if they tell you a story in which they're actively, you know, showing, performing excellent customer service and, exhibiting emotional intelligence, excellent communication, etc., then you're going to almost visualize them successfully doing that. And then ideally, you'll think, okay, they did that here. Yeah, that's similar to what we would need them to do in this
Yeah,
position. And when you make that mental parallel, it's a good sign for the candidate that they're giving you enough information.
absolutely. You raised a good point too, is when you do the question, I've had so many different answers to these with the STAR technique, that good and bad. I mean, even within the STAR technique, there is good and bad. And well, I was this, that did not get me invested. I am not interested in that story. So what I tell people is, don't give me a 5-minute soliloquy. Don't give me a two second sentence, summary. I want a little, what I call color. Give me a little flavor. Give me just enough to draw me in. One of mine is, tell me about a conflict resolution situation. And I could say, I was a manager on duty, and a customer came in, the staff got into it, and I had to go deal with it. Okay. It's basically within the format, but I was working at the Las Vegas Athletic Club. I was a manager on duty on a Saturday. A gentleman came in, he hadn't paid his dues, and our policy was that if you don't pay your dues, you don't get to work out. Had a conflict with Frankie, our front desk attendant, and I had to intercede. A little color, a little bit of information. I don't need to say that Frankie was having a bad day, and this guy came in and he was wearing, an expensive, workout suit and all this. That doesn't matter. A little color goes a long way. It gets the recruiter invested into the story. Like you said, it paints a picture. I love that analogy.
Excellent. And I mean, it sounds like exactly the same concept for the resume. You want your bullet points to have meaningful, detailed information, but not,
Yes.
you don't want to start the next Leo Tolstoy novel, right?
Right. No
Same,
fluff.
same thing with the interview. My last question for you is really important. I find that, and I was like this myself as a student. Frankly, I really didn't put much stock into my resume or my career management until I was almost ready to graduate college, into my
Well,
early 20s. But, in my opinion now, it would have been much more beneficial if I would have been thinking about these things as early as high school. So, regardless of, where a student is in their career trajectory or where they are in terms of securing opportunities that they want, what is one thing as current students that they can do now to better prepare and perhaps make themselves more marketable for these future opportunities? What's something or some things that they could do now to enhance their overall skills?
I'm not going to give you one thing. I'm going to list 5. The first one in bold points is develop those soft skills. This is the most important. The next thing I would say is build targeted resumes. Third thing is be technologically savvy. We are into a transformative world, and everything from retail to even construction is getting technological components to it. And if you can't keep up, you're going to get left behind. We're seeing that already with people my age and younger, the Gen Xers, the boomers. As we fail to adapt, we are getting left behind and out of the workforce or relegated to those low paying entry level jobs. Um, Fourth thing, and this is really important, conduct research on your targeted companies and industries before applying. Is this someplace you want to work? Is it something you want to do? What can you learn? What benefit to your overall work life does this provide to you? Does this give you a career path? Is it developing skills that you're going to need for where you want to go? The fifth thing, be adaptable. As I said, we're in a disruptive society and things are changing rapidly and substantially. As Alexander Graham Bell said, before anything else, preparation is the key to success.
Very, very sage words. And yes, I Alexander Graham Bell. That's a name from the history books. But yes, I mean, with someone who achieved what he did, who of course invented the telephone, circa the 19th century, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
He
And
failed thousands of times before he succeeded, but it did not dissuade him from keeping on going.
which I think that's another underrated transferable skill is perseverance and
Yes.
resilience. A lot of hiring managers specifically want that. And just one example of how it applies into, a context that you wouldn't think of is sports, athletics. Like if you are a fan of the NFL and you're watching the NFL draft and you're wondering, which quarterback is this team going to take? Some teams want a quarterback who encountered adversity and difficult times in college and were able to overcome them because, if they can demonstrate that, then, they think, well, the professional league won't eat them alive. So
Right.
it makes sense. Well, this has been extremely helpful and invaluable, and thank you infinitely for your time, sir.
Absolutely. Glad to be here and glad to do it. And I wish your students great success. I'd love to see them contact me and let's get them on the path to a wonderful job career, or not a job, a wonderful career, because the job's easy to get. A career is a little harder.
Great note to end on.
Right. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.